Molweni, my name is Uanga Mbeia and I am from South Africa. I stay in the coastline of Gqeberha, and my love for seaweed started when I had the opportunity to study about it in Sweden, Gothenburg University.
I live between Paris and Brittany in France. Brittany is the west coast of France and probably the most complete seaweed ecosystem in the country.
Seaweed is actually part of our daily life in China. My favorite seaweed is kelp. I am a seaweed ambassador for an organization called Safe Seaweed Coalition.
The coalition is a partnership that supports the safe and sustainable scaling up of the global seaweed industry.
I do believe in the absolute need of a program of advocacy based on dialogue and communication towards these various stakeholders and communities.
I'm a graduate student at the University of Victoria in the Spectral Lab, where we map and monitor bull kelp using remote sensing.
What piqued my interest the most was the fact that seaweed grows very fast, and through photosynthesis, it absorbs carbon dioxide at a phenomenal rate. Now, this process, also known as carbon sequestration, could be our answer to global warming and to mitigating the effects of climate change.
And again, we want to move this industry forward.
I really think seaweed has the potential to not just help our ecosystems and biodiversities in the ocean, but also to help the communities along these coastlines. I'm really hoping that seaweed can provide quality, sustainable jobs.
I've discovered a special formula to transform seaweed into a pliable material to create fashion and home decor products.
I like to draw parallels between land-based agricultural systems that I'm familiar with and the seaweed industry that's developing and growing.
So I think it's really important that we have a lot of people talking and thinking about kelp, how to monitor it, how to restore it, and just really recognizing the importance of our kelp forest.
Well, I kind of came up with the saying, whatever the question is, seaweed is the answer, and that's not exaggerating. From food to biofuels to bioplastic to biofiber.
And I eat it, I dry it, and I put it in all my dishes.
I love to tell others about seaweed because it holds so much promise to support our global food systems and sustainability more broadly.
My advice to anyone wanting to know about seaweed is get involved, be a part of it, be a part of this amazing industry.
Because of all this and more, I'm driven to spread the word about the multifaceted treasure trove that seaweed is.
It's a powerhouse that can contribute significantly to many of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
I hope you will learn more of seaweed during Seaweed Days.
And I hope you'll join me in the seaweed revolution.
Right. So I think we are live. Welcome everybody to the ones who are joining. Yeah, I see some people coming in. Welcome. I will take a few more seconds so that people can join us. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
All right, so as people are moving in, I will start by introducing myself. My name is Marie-France Roy, sounds really French, but you can just call me Marie. And I would like to thank Cascadia Seaweed for asking me to be the moderator today on this really amazing conversation about the importance to embrace Indigenous wisdom into this new sector and into everything really. So I'm joining from Ucluelet. I'm in Ucluelet, that territory. And I am myself in the application process of getting a small farm going up here in the Barclay Sound, which is in Toquat territory. So that's all very exciting for me. And yeah, I will be facilitating the conversation between all of our guests, and I will introduce them all right now. Thank you all for joining. We first of all have Therese Hagen, who is the co-founder of Two-Eyed Seeing Consulting. Thank you for being here today. We have Adam Jerome, who is the Research and Communications Officer at l'Association de Gestion Halieutique Micmac et Malécite. We have Mike Williamson, the co-founder and CEO of Cascadia Seaweed. And we have Abraham Pelkey and John Etzel, both counselors for the Stay Out First Nation. So thank you for joining, everybody. And before we get into the few questions that we have for everyone, I would like to maybe welcome Abraham to do a land acknowledgement for us. And I know that for myself and for Cascadia, we ask everyone to take a moment and acknowledge and pause and reflect on the land that we're joining us from today. And it's important to think about the culture, the history, and the traditional people, the language of these lands. And we know that there's been some sad moments of that history, but some beautiful ones. And hopefully we can keep working together and learning from our mistakes and do better from now on. So Abraham, I will let you say a few words if you wish.
Thank you, Marie. And yeah, I would just like to acknowledge for you to again take notice and acknowledge the lands and territories that you reside on and the people that are there. And again, you know, the good stewards that they were of the land and the caretakers. So I'm here in Victoria, BC, and it's Coast Salish territory. I don't want to name all of them because there's quite a few, but I'm Coast Salish myself, and I'm within the Quisanich Nation and on the unceded territories here. But yeah, so maybe when you introduce yourself, just say, you know, the land and territory that you come from to pay, you know, homage to that. Thank you so much. And I look forward to the discussion today, and let's start talking. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. That is really wonderful. I would like to start maybe with Adam. If you would like to tell us where you're joining us from today, and also provide some history about the aquaculture industry and the perspective of it from your association.
Well, hello, I'm Adam Jerome. I'm a member of the Cascadia First Nation in Cascadia, Quebec, the Gaspé Coast, or the Gaspésie. I work for MAFMA. You pronounced it earlier in French. It's AGAM in French, but in English it's MAFMA. It's the Mi'kmaq-Maliseet Aboriginal Fisheries Management Association. We just turned 10 years old last month, so we've been in existence for 10 years. We're an ARM group. Aboriginal Aquatic Resource and Oceans Management Program by DFO. I work for 3 communities, the Mi'kmaqs of Cascadia, the Mi'kmaqs of Gaspé, and the Maliseet of Wolastoqiyik, Wasibeguk. So I need a look. Interest in seaweed began in 2012 as a result of communities' willingness to work on exploring opportunities for diversifying the exploitation of marine resources. Initially, the work focused on wild biomass, but later concerns from community members led us to turn to aquaculture. Some of their concerns were that fields of wild kelp were recognized as important habitats for lobster reproduction. In order not to harm the commercially important species, it was just natural to turn to aquaculture. So, you know, after that, there was a lot of research. What are we going to work with? Which type of seaweed? Here in Quebec, there was little done with kelp, sugar kelp. So that is the species we chose to work with. So in 2012, Eric Tamineau, he's a collaborator with us, someone that's helped us a lot. He's a professor at the Marinov School of Fisheries and Aquaculture in Quebec. He worked on the adaptation of the aquaculture of seaweed to the climatic conditions of Quebec. And this is how we first did our first test in aquaculture. We had a site in Carleton, Gaspé. The site, it didn't give us satisfactory results because of the fresh water that runs through there. One year we lost our entire lines due to ice. It was, you know, and lessons learned. So in 2018, we acquired a aquaculture site in Passepébiac, Quebec. It's roughly 45 minutes from here, and it covers 83.5 hectares. To date, in 2018, I recall we had 11 lines up. The following year, we put an additional 12, and we're actually harvesting our kelp. I was on the field for 10 hours today. Our kelp is looking really well. We have 23 lines, 19 that are of sugar kelp and 4 are alaria. So we don't know what we're going to do with the alaria yet, but and that's where we are today.
Amazing. It's a big journey.
Big journey.
I might come back to you with some questions, but I'm going to jump over to Abraham. I understand that the Sayle First Nation engaged in seaweed farming this year, right? Can you please share with us why the nation chose to pursue seaweed aquaculture?
You know, for us, and when we met with Mike initially, you know, it was, we did a lot of research on our own here and say out to everything with our values aligned with it, you know, with being good stewards and giving a lot back to the ecosystem and out in here in Saniston Bay. And a bigger portion of it also is when they came to us as rights and title holders to get a license from us in 2021. And then we formed our partnership from there and we granted our license there. And we see it as nothing but good again. And again, our values as First Nations people aligned with what seaweed had to bring, right? And, you know, so therefore is why we're here, and we're going to continue. We had a successful harvest of 5 hectares and lines, and we want to build more. Like we want to really get this out there, because as Mike said, the waters are very good here. But yeah.
Awesome. And how did the relationship start between you and Cascadia, and how's this been going? How is this an important part of it to partner with Indigenous communities?
Very important, because again, it's getting back to that rights and title holder, you know, for us to practice and enact our Douglas treaties out on the water. And because again, we were always caretakers of the land, and again, practicing that good stewardship. So it's very imperative out there, because we're able to manage our own waters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Mike, from your point of view, would you like to add anything? What's it like as an industry partner?
Well, what's it like as an industry partner? It's very exciting. I come to you from the traditional territories of the Wasanich. I'm just up the road from Abraham in Sayet territory. We work all over Vancouver Island. We're in the territories of the Sayet, Sashat, Uchucklasit, Huayet, Klahoose, and Ahousaht First Nations. As Abraham said in his territorial acknowledgement, and it's important that people understand what they're acknowledging, one of the things we're looking back on is how our founding peoples were great stewards of the ocean, of the land, and of the air. And by us working with them, we can partake in that sharing of knowledge and developing new knowledge. When we talk to the members of the Sayet, for example, we met elders who as kids would play with kelp, they would make toys of it, they would eat it, they would feed it to other animals, and it was a really important part of their culture. And we're able to take that ancient traditional knowledge and bring it to a modern application, and to be able to do so in a profitable manner. We have to grow the business, we have to grow the industry and the sector across the country, but do so in a profitable manner, but that respects Mother Earth herself and the founding peoples. So there's a very careful balance. At Cascadia, we work with our partners and we only harvest what we've cultivated ourselves, and that's to respect what's already there provided by Mother Nature and not to harm that. So it's been a great relationship on so many levels. I mean, obviously there's a contractual relationship that Abraham referred to. There's a personal relationship. It's great to get nation members out on the water and just see the smiles on their face as they see the kind of bounty that can be produced right in their own territory, a very green, regenerative crop. So it's been a very rewarding experience.
And if I may add to that, Marie, it's been amazing because from the starting point for us here at SAIL, we had with our this is very grassroots because we went to our local fishermen and elders and we created a marine use law, and which Mike and the company recognized, and as rights and title holders as a governing body over the water, land, and air, just so what was said. So, the relationship has been amazing because the recognition right up front was great because they recognized us as a government to be able to issue that license to them. And again, with seaweed, it's an organic relationship, because we've been doing it for time immemorial, right? It's just a natural thing and it's a great thing. So I just wanted to add that piece to it too, for the hard work from my staff and coming into a great partnership that's organic with Cascadia Seaweed. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Abraham. That's really great. Therese, maybe you can give us some of your advice, considering that each nation is unique and so diverse, but may have some cultural protocols in common. Could you share some of your advice on how a settler or non-Indigenous business or organization should approach a business relationship with an Indigenous community?
Sure, thank you so much for that. And I think Adam and Mike and Abraham have all pointed to some of those key components as it is. First and foremost is the recognition of Indigenous communities and as rights and title holders and stewards of the lands for thousands and thousands of years. And alongside of that is a recognition of that collective community's historical knowledge. It goes back millennia. And there's a connection to the land and the water and the air that's deep, it's connected, and it is an important part of whatever business opportunity is going to be developed between the partners. I would say be committed to a long-standing relationship, one that's based on mutual respect, on partnership, on integrity, on staying in communication with one another, and really letting communities take the lead, recognizing that communities have that knowledge, but also have the best knowledge in terms of what's going to work in and for and with the community. And then I would say, in terms of a way of being rather than a way of doing, stay curious, be humble, and ask lots of questions, recognizing that individual communities have their way of knowing and being and doing, have their own relationships to the land and to things that are also living, including the oceans and including what gets harvested from the oceans. That's a little bit, but I think the biggest thing is to be curious and humble, and to really stay connected to and committed to if you're building an opportunity, that likely this will be a long-standing relationship if it's going to be a successful one.
So true. Thank you for that, Therese. Adam, going back to you, would you be willing to tell us a bit about Salaweg and how did that come to be?
Salaweg, to start, Salaweg means it's salty in Mi'kmaq. So That was my suggestion for naming it. So kelp is it's salty, so that's how it started. Salaweg, Salaweg formed in 2012, was developed by MAFMA, the Mi'kmaq-Maliseet Aboriginal Fisheries Management Association, and its 3 member communities, the Mi'kmaqs of Cascadia, Mi'kmaqs of Gespeg, and the Wulus-Duguyik-Wasipeguk First Nation. Since 2012, we've been working together on using an underexploited biomass and on diversifying commercialization activities for the marine resources of the Gaspé and St. Lawrence, Lower St. Lawrence. Tremendous amount of work and research development allowed Salaweg to come into being after more than 4 years of work, and it's been 9 years of work now, especially improving the yields of kelp farming and the marketing and development of kelp-based products. The adventure finally saw light in 2012, with Salaweg kicking off its commercial activities with the launch of 4 products. And I'm just going to show you them briefly. We have our sea relish. I don't know if you can see that properly.
Yep.
We have our tartar mix.
Yum.
And we have fish spices and meat spices. Our fish spices is our kelp is dried, and for our fish spices, our kelp is dried, then smoked. So the mission of Salaweg is to offer products of exceptional culinary qualities derived from Mi'kmaq and Maliseet fishing and aquaculture. From seed to plate, Salaweg products are farmed or fished, processed and marketed in partnership with our 3 communities. We're doing a relaunching this year of Salaweg because due to COVID, COVID affected everything. There was, sales went down, especially here in Quebec anyhow. A lot of stores were closed for so long. This year we're hoping to collaborate with each community to develop 1 product each. So hopefully we'll have 3 new products in the coming years, hopefully next year. But that was the journey to Salaweg with Salaweg.
I saw awesome recipes on your website. Which one's your favorite?
My favorite personally is when I make my lobster rolls with Boston lettuce. I use the tartar mix with some veggies, and I actually made some last week because I did a documentary with APTN, so you'll probably see some of that in the coming season anyhow of Gespegewagi, the Lost Land.
Oh, that's exciting. Maybe an open question for anyone that's willing to share. Are there any lessons learned from your experiences that you would like to share with others looking to enter the seaweed sector?
I guess you definitely have to be patient. You have to learn from your mistakes, because in aquaculture, there's a lot of mistakes, and it's been 9 years. And honestly, like today, this past week, our yield is the best. It's we're learning each year. Don't get discouraged. Work with people. Work with experts. It's you can't do it all by yourself sometimes, and collaborating together, it's what we need to strive.
So tomorrow's the 3rd anniversary or the 3rd birthday of Cascadia Seaweed. I would echo Adam's comments. In the early days, we turned to experts. In some sectors, we are now experts. In Canada and in most of the Western world, the seaweed sector is very collaborative. I've already reached out to Adam and say, let's exchange ideas. We're growing the same species, sugar kelp and alaria. We've made lots of mistakes. We've learned lots of lessons. We want to apply them. And Marie, just to add one other thing, if there's locals and folks that know the land and the water, ask them too, because you'll find out about migrating fish that will positively or negatively affect your crop. You'll find out about seasonal rainfall, when there's ice and not. There's so many things to be learned from the local residents as well. So that's a very important aspect. And two overarching things, and I just want to go back to what Therese said, and she talked very much about listening and being receptive. The line I always use is we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen twice as much as we speak. And each one of our neighbor or partner First Nations, they all have different needs, wants, expertise, and aspirations. There is no one size fits all. So we find when working with First Nations and Aboriginal Indigenous communities, listen first, see what's of interest to the community, see what's going to fit, see what's going to work. There's no use coming in with something that's not going to satisfy your partners. So the secret to get into the seaweed sector is really understand your surroundings, both from an economic and a physical and environmental perspective. Figure that out first before you jump in.
Very good. I'm just curious for you guys at Cascadia, when you started your communications with the nations, do you go through a consulting company? How did you approach the communities?
So in the case of Cascadia Seaweed, through past jobs, I've had the great fortune of working with British Columbia Coastal First Nations for 17 years. So that gave me a bit of a head start. Consultants are experts if you don't have the knowledge in-house, and if you have the knowledge in-house, use that. I'm very humbled to say that every time I deal with coastal communities, I learn something new every single day. And just when you think you've figured something out, a cultural aspect, a traditional aspect, something about the territory, you're going to be proven wrong, which is why it's so important to use those 2 ears and 2 eyes before you use your mouth.
Oh, yes. Anybody wants to share any regulatory experiences with the process?
I want to chime in on that, and I will let Mike know. You hit it on the head there, and in our language is la lightning. You listen, la lightning. But I'm no expert in any regard. I wish Councillor Stan Sam was here, because he is the expert that really schooled myself and Mike in our initial meeting. I learned so much from, and he's a councillor, but not only, he's the fisherman of our community and has been so for so long. His family, it's been passed down, like that's their role in our community. But we've heard a lot from him, and it's amazing. I had no idea he had all that knowledge, and he talked a lot about it with Mike, and I was blown away with a lot of the things that he had to bring to the table. So I give him the utmost respect to that. And for us, we're early on, because as you see that we just granted the license in 2021, but we've been successful. And again, we thank you, Adam, because we're going to have a lot to learn as a nation here, and how we're going to move forward, with this great relationship that we have with Cascadia. But I look forward to more. Sorry, I was saying we look forward to more, because we're branching out to other nations here that are in the Crusadenish nations, because there's 4 other nations that we're going to bring this forth to, and we're just one of 5. Sorry, so stay tuned for more. This table to get bigger.
That's exciting. Was there any, when it's such a new sector, we're so used to fishing industry, and when this new concept of seaweed farming came up, were the nations like, well, was there a bit of doubt, or was this difficult to sell at first?
I could go ahead.
Adam, what was your experience on the East Coast?
Personally, I'm just one of part of our big team here at MAFMA, and I remember having our first, was a couple team meetings, and that's where the idea of let's do something with seaweed, and my initial thought was like, seaweed, really? But it's an unutilized resource, and it's an opportunity, so we jumped on it, and I wouldn't have chose a different path. but like I said, it's a lot of hard work and, you know, the determination, but we're here and, you know, I'm proud of how far we've come.
Marie, your fellow panelists would like to hear about your journey into seaweed.
Well, my journey is just getting started. I'm still in the application process, which we all know can be long. I think it's my third time applying, and I'm basically an individual with some advice here and there. And I just want to start something that's mainly educational, you know, selling the benefits of seaweed for these communities, for the environmental advantages. I think it's just, there's so many benefits and it's so exciting. And initially for me, the idea came at a salmon farm rally. Somebody was talking on the mic, well, we need to, you know, it's one thing to take an industry out of these communities, but it's like, it's such an income source that you have to offer something else that's better. So somebody talked about seaweed that tastes like bacon. And I was like, I'll look into that. It was just, you know, it's just, the fight has been difficult sometimes, you know, because we all want people to be doing great. We all want sustainable solutions. We all want to work with the nations and make sure that there is salmon and there is like a land that can provide for the next generations. And I just think the seaweed farming sector is just a huge solution to all these problems. So
yeah, and because this is a international Seaweed Around the Clock, I've spoken with seaweed farmers in other nations that work with coastal First Nations and Indigenous communities. The stories are very similar. The First Nations are always bringing their local knowledge, which is important. You asked a question about legislative and jurisdictional approval. Again, this is an international forum. Every nation has different rules, every jurisdiction. Some are very fast, some are very long. The positive thing I'll say is anyone that has a long jurisdictional process, at the end of the day, they really do want to protect the environment as well. And it's one thing to put in a seaweed farm, but you want to make sure you're not doing it in an area where there's other native species or species at risk, like, you know, gooey duck or abalone or glass reefs. And around the world, there's going to be different processes. So that's part of the reason why your journey is a little bit longer, I think. Abraham's nation did something that was well within their rights and titles and did their own marine use law. And collectively, we're working on how to deal with that with their government and the government of Canada and the government of the province. So as I said earlier, every different nation is going to be have their own journey, and you, Marie, are understanding your own personal journey with seaweed as well. And all of us are going to have different stories.
For sure. How was your story? What brought you onto seaweed, Mike?
My business partner had done a study for the local economic association on Vancouver Island, and amongst 4 business ideas, one of them that came up was seaweed. We had a cup of coffee. I was looking for a new project. I Googled seaweed, and what came up was that globally demand exceeds supply, which is a great place to start. And a document from the World Bank that said that in the next 25 years, 10% of the global food mass could come from seaweed. And as we saw during COVID, as Adam said, food security is a challenge, and shorter supply chains. And certainly for anybody living near a coast somewhere in the world, the ocean is full of life, and it's full of life where you can grow new products like seaweed and take advantage of it. The earth is 75% covered by the oceans, and we're only extracting about 2 or 3% of human protein requirements from the sea. It's not a good mix, and we can do so now with seaweed, which in and of itself is a regenerative crop. It leaves the ocean in a better condition than when you found it. So what you're doing, Adam and Marie and Abraham, not only are we ensuring our own local community's food security, we're leaving that piece of ocean we work in a better state than when we found it. So it's a perfect harmony.
There's so much potential indeed. It's amazing. I would like to hear more from you, Therese. Maybe you want to share, like, from your experience and your work, like some success stories, like maybe moments that were a real breakthrough with the different people you worked with.
Oh, goodness. So first of all, I want to recognize that I was so excited to answer your question the first time that I didn't acknowledge where it is that I get to live my life, work my life. And it's incredibly important to me to acknowledge the Lekwungen people. So Esquimalt and Songhees First Nations graciously allow me to work, live, and play here in this beautiful space on Vancouver Island. I'm very close to both Mike and Abraham in terms of proximity, and so I'm very grateful for the stewards of this land. And I also have I'm a northerner at heart. So north of 60 is where I really flourish. I'm from Norway myself, and I'm married into Casca and Tlingit nations in the Yukon. So the tundra is where I call home. But I wanted to talk a little bit about seaweed just in terms of a personal journey, because I spent about 10 years up in the northwest of the province of British Columbia, and amongst Tsimshian and Nisga'a and Gitxsan and Haisla people. And so I came to seaweed through annually not harvesting it, but annually getting to reap the rewards of others having harvested it. And I think whenever it comes to, you're talking about success stories in terms of communities, and so I don't know that I can pick just one particularly, but I love to go into community where something that matters to the communities, that resonates with how they are, who they are, becomes a fit and becomes an economic development opportunity, is really when I love to watch things occur. And in conversations with Mike and with Aaron, and recognizing the opportunities that they have collaborated with and communities have brought for them, to me, that's where the magic happens, is when there's an opportunity and an idea, and it's a match for both the industry partner and the community, who's also an industry partner. And then when people within the community themselves actually get to contribute to, develop, plan, implement, and ultimately run the business, that's where the magic really happens. So I couldn't pick just one success story in terms of a particular community, but I think that those are really the key elements, and a great opportunity to have something like seaweed, where so many communities have utilized it for so long already. It's a great food source, and to now be able to produce it and have it be an economic development initiative as well is fascinating.
It's beautiful. It's a real cycle of life, giving back and connecting people together too. We have only 5 minutes left. Is there anyone that would like to share anything? This is your opportunity.
I'll step in initially. We're all on a journey, but it's also important to know our destination, and the destination is success. And what does success look like for us in Cascadia? Well, first of all, we're a for-profit company, so shareholders want to see that their money's put to good use. The second important audience we address is Mother Nature, and we want to leave the planet in a better shape than when we found it. And the third most important group, not third most, but the important group, is rights and title holders. We have to ensure that what we do meets their needs as well. So as a for-profit company, as long as we've addressed those three main pillars and people feel good about it, feel rewarded, feel like they're part of a better solution, then we've successfully reached the end of our journey. So that's our goalposts, and that's why we're in it. And also, of course, to get greater acceptance of seaweed into diets and to other uses, and to take advantage of what Adam said. We're just all discovering how wonderful it is again. Things that Adam's and Abraham's forefathers knew for a long time, and we're just now rediscovering it. So that's success in the end of the journey for me. And I'd be interested to hear what it is for the others.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mike. Adam, what is success for you over there?
Success, like I said, every year it's a new experience. Every year is a new experience. Like I think success this week was having the best yield. You know, it looks like some lines might have a ton of kelp, and that's extraordinary because we've seen nothing like that. That just means we're on the right path, and we're gonna just have to continue on that same path. And like I said, like Mike said, keep talking to those experts, listen to them. It's not an easy journey, and those ears are always helpful, and the eyes as well. So you know, I'm like I said, I'm happy. I've always been thrilled to be part of Salawag. Right now, Salawag belongs to our 3 communities. It's no longer with MAFMA since last year because we're nonprofit, but we're always implicated still in the harvest. That's our job. But we'll be there to help them all. Whoever takes over, you know, I feel like I'm no biologist, but I feel like I'm somewhat of an expert because I even make the products as well. So, you know, it's been an amazing journey for me, and
you can do it
I'm
all.
proud to be part of it. Yes.
That's beautiful. Abraham, anything else you'd like to share? I think we have about 1-2 minutes left.
I just want to thank everyone for the talks today, and you know, the successes for us, you know, having the 22-kilometer production line and the 14 tons of seaweed that our harvest this past season. And again, I look forward to more, and to branch out to the neighboring nations. And you know, for this I'm excited also, you know, because coming into it, you hear the word farming and not knowing anything about seaweed. So I have a really good friend that's a biologist, and you know, he brought me into it and let me know, and you know, it was amazing. So I'm looking forward to the journey and more. So, you know, Teresa and Mike, as you know, I'm here to make those connections also, because I want this to become something much bigger, because we have something here for sure, as we all hear today, you know, with Adam and, you know, our story with Cascadia. So let's more, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we could all use more, and all these stories are so inspiring. Thank you all for sharing all these important advice. It'll be really useful to me, and I think to many other people. And yeah, I think there's just so much excitement about this sector, and I think there's going to be so much more. I think we live in a beautiful place that has so much to offer: the quality of our waters and the communications, the relationships with the people that have been on these lands. I think that's really important, and a great reminder today that we need to listen and work together. So thank you so much, and I hope you had a great time, and until the next chat, I hope.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.